Some of my notifications popped up. It won't be so loud.
All right, Lacey, I know that we're having issues with the video for you with your mic not working. So I've got you on a speaker so that way I can go over, what we've been working on for the last 4 days, what you guys have been working on. And right now we're doing the live stream. So that way we can bring everybody else into the story as to your grandparents with Robert and Loveda Proctor. And the big thing with this one is, now that we know the area, we've been here for 4 days, we've covered a lot of territory. I want the world to know what we have covered and what they can do also to help us out, whether they're from afar or they know somebody within the Nebraska, Kansas, even Colorado area that they can help spread awareness, but also to get out there, with boots on the ground also. And what they need to be looking for is going to be the big purpose of what we're discussing right here, right now for them today. Right now, do you see me on the computer though? So that way, when I share my screen, you'll have access to see me.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so the first thing, we are currently in Aurora, Nebraska, where we are looking for Loveda and Robert Proctor. Now, Loveda is 92 years old and Robert is 89 years old. And let me just have you, in your own words, Lacey, kind of bring our viewers into your grandparents and some of the backstory, and then I'll continue down the rabbit hole of where everything that we know, where we searched, and again, what others can do to help us out.
Okay, so do you want me to start with like where they were seen, or just like their health, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I would start for, with in fact, let me just kind of, let's just start with your grandfather. If we have full-on dementia that's going on with him, and then, was it your grandma that took them to the VA around 4 p.m.?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
So just take us from the VA from 4 p.m. and then kind of the timeline and locations, and take us up until 1:39 p.m. that evening for the last location they were seen. And then I'm going to bring the map up at the same time also and start talking about some of those locations.
Okay. So they left their home shortly after 4 o'clock on the 11th, and they went and got gas at Aurora Co-op around 4:19. And then they headed towards Grand Island, and they got to the VA and ran into a doctor as he was walking out. My grandpa was walking up with his walker.
Okay, so let me just pause real quick so that way everybody has a good visual as to where we're talking about. So right here is Aurora, Nebraska. So their home is on the south side here, and so we've created a 5-mile radius, a 10-mile, and a 15-mile radius. And the VA that you're mentioning is they went from Aurora and they went west to Grand Island. Island or Isle? How do you say that?
Grand Island.
Okay, so Grand Island to the VA over here in Grand Island. Okay, take us from there, and I've got the map up so we can follow you from there.
So Grandpa was complaining that he just felt like hell. He just didn't feel good. And so they went in and kind of checked him out, and decided that they should call another ambulance to transport Grandpa to the emergency room. So they went ahead and transported him over there, and Grandma got lost trying to go there. She ended up going actually the opposite direction, and somebody over on Vine Street helped guide her back to the hospital.
Okay, so let me just kind of give a quick little, so right about here in this area is where the VA is at. And then the hospital that they end up at is right down in this area right here, somewhere right about here is the hospital. And this may not be perfect location marking on here, but this will give everybody else a good idea as to where we're talking. So it wasn't that far that they went from the VA to the hospital. Grandpa's in the ambulance, Grandma's following around 4 p.m.
Correct.
Okay.
More around 4:45, 5 o'clock, right in there.
Okay.
So in the meantime, Grandpa had refused them to help him until Grandma got there, as he was concerned about her. So then when she did get there, they were talking to him and checking him over, and they basically said that he had a dry cough and that he wanted to leave. So around, what time was it?
Around 8 o'clock.
8:04 that he was
discharged from St. Francis.
Yes. and then they head west.
And before they head west, just so people can understand, we have your grandpa with full-on dementia. Your grandma's not yet being diagnosed with any dementia, but one, she's already gotten lost from the VA to the hospital, and then in addition to that, she ended up getting lost just in the parking lot trying to find her car that's parked up front in the handicap.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she did. So then they did find their vehicle, and then they left. They went west, and that was on Bailey Avenue.
Yes.
Then they go west to Webb Road, where they turn south, and they were seen by Zanon Cosmetology there. And then from there, we're not sure exactly where they stopped between there, and the next sighting was in Giltner.
And that one, and so the sighting was down here in Giltner, and that was around 10 p.m., right?
Yes.
Yes.
And there were there were two sightings in Giltner, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so
it took them around 2 hours to get there, and the first sighting said that he saw Grandpa eating something, so they had to stop somewhere to get some food within that 2 hours.
And Grandma and Grandpa don't have a cell phone. No credit cards have been used. And so we don't know if Grandma had food with her in the car already, or if they stopped somewhere with cash in their pocket.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yes. So then they end up by the school, and we have video footage of them just south of the school.
In Giltner
on 6th Road. They stopped by the stop sign just south of the school. And then they decide to turn south on H Road, and they are gone from the video for about 10 minutes.
And that's this location right here.
Yes.
And that's the stop sign that we're talking about. So we have two sightings in Giltner.
Yes.
Okay.
So then they head south, and they're gone off the video for about 10 minutes. And so my husband and I actually drove down that road, and right at about 5 minutes, going at their pace around 35 to 40 mile an hour, it turns to gravel every way. So that tells us that Grandma turned around and came back, and that was right about 10 minutes. She didn't want to be on gravel then. So then she turns east on 6th Road there, and she goes about 50 feet, and she taps on her brakes 3 times in the video that you can see, where she's still kind of not sure if she's going the right direction. And then she proceeds down the road.
About 3.5 miles.
Thank you.
And just past a tower, she stops at a farmhouse and asks them for directions to Aurora. They told her to proceed going east on 6, and at the stop sign, turn left, and you'll hit Aurora in 6 miles.
And so the farmhouse that we're talking about that's the same one where she banged into the flagpole in the driveway?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so from there, my understanding is they told her to go east, make a left at the stop sign, which would have been 14 north, but instead she made a right out of the driveway.
Yes. And headed south on 14. And then a few miles up the road from there, she hit Route 6, Highway 6. And at Highway 6, it's a T intersection. And she turned right and went west towards Hastings. And then there was camera footage in Hastings at the Aurora fuel station. We saw them drive by there. And then up the road is a pump and pantry. And they pulled into there. And we could see their vehicle and them quite well. My dad tried to go inside, and they were closed. So he went back and got in his vehicle, and they left and proceeded west on Highway 6. Then at the Cinex on Highway 6, also had a sighting of him, but they lost it on their cameras. and didn't get to let the police department see it, but they had viewed it the day before on Sunday and and thought it was my mom and dad. And they were there for 20 minutes using the restroom and getting chips and pop. And from there, they left and went west on Highway 6 again, and was seen at Adams Central School at the roundabout. And they proceeded west on Highway 6 from there. And that was the last camera viewing we have had.
At 1:39 a.m.
on the 12th.
Okay. And so one thing that I want to, let me change this because I had 150 in my notes here. So let me put 139. So a few things I want to talk about on this one also is we ended up making our way back to the Senex, and we spoke with them a little bit more. Even like you said, they didn't have any footage here, but a few things that really stuck out to us on this one is they're there for 20 minutes. Both grandma and grandpa are inside sitting down. Grandpa's using the restroom. They enjoy a Coke. But at no point, here we are at 1:30 in the morning, but at no point does anybody have any indication that anything is off with them. Your grandma and grandpa are not asking for directions. We're lost. It's 1:30 in the morning. Can you help us get back to Aurora? They didn't even ask for directions this time, nor did they ask for, Victor, like you were saying when we were talking to you, they didn't even ask for, can you call my son? Can you help me out here?
Yeah.
Yes, and that's surprising because they had stopped at places and asked for help prior to that, and
asked specifically how to get to Aurora.
And I wonder if maybe there might have been a pedestrian in there, someone else from another vehicle that they may have talked to, or if it was just them and people that work there. I don't know if they talked to anybody else or anything like that.
Right. And so now we have from the moment that they leave the gas station here, 7 minutes later is when they're spotted here. And so your grandma, to bring, everybody into this as well, grandma drives slower than most. She's 92 years old. She doesn't take any dirt roads, and I'll get into it in just a few moments as to a lot of the dirt roads we covered with some of our thought process and where we're going to be now heading the next couple of days and what other people can do to help out as well. But in your opinion, 100%, if grandma hits a dirt road, she's turning around, because that's just 100% that she doesn't do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Anything else you want to bring us up to speed on that? And if not, then I'm going to kind of talk about what we covered on day one with you. And then, we split up for the next couple of days. And so I want to go over what's been covered from our side. We'll go over what you guys have been doing on the north side. And then we'll talk about what everybody can do to share this, put the word out to anybody in Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, to bring them into the case, but also what to look for. Get off the couch, get out there, go for a drive, either by yourself or with the one that you love, and put yourself, in the mindset of somebody that's lost at 2:00 in the morning and what they might see. And part of that morning also, on January 12th, so they've been missing for 6 weeks, is that we are still within a 6-week window where we're going to have evidence that if they went off the side of the road into a ravine, into a body of water, into a grouping of trees, we're going to have brush and sticks and twigs and, tire tracks that's going to be laid down, that we have that visual that anybody can help us locate that, some of those spots.
Yes. So I've also kind of thought, I know you guys have mentioned the right turn thing that they've done a lot, which is, it makes sense. Excuse me. I was thinking about that yesterday, and I wonder if she's also making so many right turns because she is concerned about grandpa and he's to her right. So she's constantly looking over there and making those turns right because of caring for him as well. So I wonder if she turned right sometime shortly after the Adams Central roundabout, but with her glaucoma, she can't see corners very well. So would she look for a lit intersection, knowing that that could be a paved road, or would she accidentally turn on a gravel road and then try to turn around?
Right. And
Just my thought
Adams,
process.
yeah, and Adams is paved right here. But she was last seen heading west from this roundabout. So from the roundabout,
Right.
heading west, and that was the very last sighting that we had.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let me bring everybody else into where we started, why we started, what we've covered so far. And so coming into town, we went with the thought process of, all right, first of all, they're both from Aurora up here. They left the hospital, and here we go from 6 to 8 p.m. They're leaving. They come down here, and they're just simply making right-hand turns to where they're seen in this location 3 times, 1, 2, 3, actually 4 times after between 10 and 10:30 p.m. 2.5 hours it took them to go 20 miles. We then have 3 hours later, as they're making what we assume is right-hand turns, they're then seen 3 more times, and not that far apart, all within, a proper distance to drive from the pump and pantry to the Senex to the schoolhouse. But it took them 3 more hours to make it another 20 miles. Again, everything at this point in time appears to be, except for here, they went in a southeast direction, but after that, it appeared to be a southwest direction.
Mm-hmm.
So then we start breaking it down. What can we do to, first of all, identify a 5-mile radius? Where do we find people normally? Kind of at 15 to 18% of the time, we'll normally find them within a 5-mile radius here. And so the first thing we did with you and your family is we ended up meeting up here at Hastings Lake. It was completely frozen, so we ended up having the magnetometer on the water. We had the auger as well. We were dropping 360 in, and we were checking both of these boat ramps as well as the potential of coming off the North Shore over here. Today this is still frozen over here, and we did drop a sonar ball in today to verify some depth over here. This is only 3.5 feet deep here. The chief of Aurora also came by this morning and met up with us at this boat ramp where we initially met you on day 1. And right now, all of this is defrosted now on day 5 since we've been here. So we did put the boat in before breakfast this morning. We identified that it's 4 to 4.5 feet maximum depth over here. And he said that this is the deepest part of the lake, that they have had cars come in at these ramps, and the cars have been exposed when they do go in and they get them out the same day. So as Lacey, you and I were talking the other day, this was our concern to head back to this lake. At this point in time, Hastings Lake is no longer a concern for me.
Okay.
We did also end up checking the pond over by the Chevy dealership. It's only 3 feet deep. And then any other location here in town, we have been able to identify that there are no tire marks, or it's not deep enough, or, we're in the middle of winter. Also, a lot of these ponds are dry. Yesterday, we really hit it hard that regardless of these ponds being on dirt roads or not, we hit every potential location within that 5-mile radius. And yesterday, we also hit the 10-mile radius over here on the north side and the south side. In addition to that, we ended up doing the route 218 all the way down from Highway 4. We came in yesterday, we came in on 14 south, past 74, down to 4. We took that over to the west. We then took it up on the 218 back into Hastings, to where we then covered all these, and then we ended up jumping over here to these ponds here. There's one pond still that I want to get back to off of off of Road 40 here. We had a potential, but we had a dead sonar ball, so we have that charged up now. So we're going to head back to this pond today. I can't say for certain 100% there's tire tracks there, nor do we know what the depth is. So we're going to double check this one.
Okay.
In addition to that, the other one that we were really interested in was getting back up here to the one north of it was what's the name of the town? Starts with an M.
Minden?
Yes. So Minden. So we're going to head back north and see if that pond is dry on part of our loop later on today. But anyway, to finish it off for yesterday, we checked this pond here, and then we came from the west to the east on Highway 74, and we finished checking all of these ponds through here as well. So everything that has a green dot here, we checked all of those. The ones that we have not checked, and I don't know if that's going to be on our route today or if it's going to be tomorrow. It might be if we have a little extra sun at the end of the day, we'll check these ponds over here. A few things to bring everybody else up to speed as well as to some other areas that we did cover is we ended up going on Highway 34, and we took Highway 34. Now, this is why 34 and 6 are really important, and here for a couple of reasons. One is from Grand Isle. If you take Grand Isle back into Aurora, that actually, and let me switch over to this map here for Street View. That is Highway 34 and 6 go into Aurora. So here we are, we're a 92-year-old, grandma with pre-onset dementia possibly, that as long as she get to 34 is our thinking, she's going to be able to find her way home. So now follow us as why we ended up on some of the roads that we ended up on. Why did she end up on some of the roads that she ended up on potentially? Well, the first thing is, we have 6th Street here. We know a 6th Street, Highway 6. So maybe that's why she was down in Giltner and she was spotted 4 times there. We also have things that are ending in 4. Route 4, Route 14, 74, and 34. So these are all 4s. So now we jump down. Part of her sighting was seen on Highway 6 here, which then Highway 6 and 34 end up coming together, and her last sighting was seen on 34. So let's visualize. Let's say that she thinks that Hastings here happens to be Grand Isle, and as long as she puts Grand Island in her rear view mirror, in her mind she's on 34 and 6, and she's heading east in her mind, when in reality she's heading west. Well, the thing that we ended up doing on day 2 is we took 34 down all the way down to McCook, and McCook is all the way down here, and we're talking hours of driving. And the thing is as we were getting further away and we're talking to people at different gas stations and checking some video footage, one is Grandma and Grandpa were not seen on any video footage, but the further we got from Hastings and Aurora and we started asking about Aurora, well, what came into play was Aurora, Colorado. And that's where anybody further away from Hastings started referring to. And so if you take the route on 34, it eventually drops you in to Denver and Aurora. So, while we can't take, the next 5-hour drive that direction, what we want to do is we want to bring all of you into this. I mean, we're talking Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Colorado. And here's what I want and need from all of you. And here's what Lacey and her family needs is we need you to, one, put in your mind, that these are, let me jump back over here a moment. So, these are Lacey's grandparents. This is Victor's parents. This is the everyday grandma and grandpa, in my opinion, that they're getting up there in age and they need our help. This is my family. They need help. There's Lacey's family need help. We're all, brothers, sisters, grandma, grandpas in this together. We're all family in this to help a neighbor, another family. The vehicle that they're driving is a 2007 Chrysler Pacifica, and the license plate number, it's a veteran Navy plate. The license plate number is really easy. It's 1030. And they may not be in water. They may be, that evening it's freezing. Remember, they've been driving for 8 hours at this point from 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock till 2 o'clock in the morning. That grandma has had a full tank of gas, but how far can she make it? The vehicle gets 15 to 18 miles per gallon, city driving, a little bit more, highway mileage. And so doing the math on there for the last sighting that we had over here, from the school, we still have 200 miles of fuel that we could potentially have that where is she going to go? Do we have, she's only going to make it 27 miles, or do we have a 250 mile radius now that we need to be looking in to identify where she's at? And so while our specialty is coming into this and looking at potential water locations, they might be in water. It's been 6 weeks. The vehicle is missing. They're missing. But that evening, it was also, below freezing. And so start looking, help us get out in your local community and do a couple things. Number one is any potential bodies of water that you see, look for a potential to where there's tire tracks going off into that body of water, but don't just pass by it. Get out and walk the bank as well and look for sticks that are broken over, because here we are, we're the middle of winter time. In springtime, everything's nice and soft and it's growing, and if you knock it over, it's going to pop back up. But we're in the middle of winter time right now. Everything is crisp and dead, and if a vehicle or somebody steps on it to where tires go over it, it's going to snap it, and you're going to see evidence that something has gone through there. We need your help to identify anything within your community. Like I said, again, Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, Oklahoma, we don't know where the Proctors are at, but we together can come together and let's do everything we can to bring them home in the next week. So that's number one. Start looking at any bodies of water within your local community. Now, outside of your community, also share this video so that way other people are aware of the Proctors, and let's bring Robert and Loveda home, so that way Lacey and Victor and their entire family, they have the answers as to what happened to their family. Outside of looking at bodies of water, other locations within your area, do you have any ravines, any drop-offs? Same thing, looking for those tire tracks, looking for bushes where a vehicle may have gone in. You have bushes that are knocked over. Tree lines, look at these tree lines. And, there's one gentleman 12 months ago that had a medical emergency. And so, Loveda, she's driving, she may have had a medical emergency. It's early in the morning. She may have fallen asleep. Her foot could have still been on the gas, and she could have simply veered off the road and ended up in a grouping of trees like the other gentleman down there in Texas last year, to where he was only off the road about 100 yards. But he wasn't found for a couple of weeks. And that could be the same thing that we have here with Robert and Loveda. So so those are the things we're looking for. But also yesterday, as we're out driving, is, what if this happens to be, a cold night, an abandoned house, farm field or something. We had a couple of barns that we went into as well, as it was an easy access, abandoned property. What if they pulled into to get out of the wind? Because the winds are also blowing at 27 miles an hour that evening, to where, grandma's driving. She stops a couple of times. In our opinion, she stopped a couple of times. And, so maybe they pulled into a barn and, hey, honey, pull in here. Let's get out of the wind. And when morning comes and sun hits, then we can continue on. And if that's something that happened, then we have the potential for hypothermia, unfortunately, or if they close themselves into a barn, the fumes from a vehicle. These are all real scenarios that could have taken place. And until we find them, until we find the answers, none of us know. And that's why, each day that goes along, we continue to speculate as to the direction they could have gone, and would they have gone north? Would they have stayed in the same area? Would they have gone a long distance to Aurora, keeping 34 and 6 in my mind? As long as I stay on this road, no matter what, I'm going to run into Aurora eventually, and they never do. So that's kind of the spiel that I have for everybody, and the plea, for you guys to come together with us to help us find the Proctors and to bring them home for Lacey and Victor. And Lacey, anything else that you guys want to add?
Also, when you're driving and looking for my parents, you might check barbed wire fences to see if anyone has broke through them, which you could also, if there is, and there's tire tracks through it, you can check them barbs to see if there's any blue paint on them, or where the tire tracks go after they go through the fence.
Yep, that's
most of our farmers' fences are all fixed, and if there's a hole in them, they would know about it, and could be a possibility.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's, one way that we're able to clear a lot more bodies of water quicker also is when those fences are up and solid.
Yeah, and a lot of our ponds and stuff and have fences around them.
Yeah, I would also like to encourage everyone, if you do have cameras, just check them. See if they go back to the 12th early in the mornings, 3, 4, 5, and watch them for a little while if you can. And you never know, you just might see them on there, and then that's one more clue that will get us a little closer to finding them.
Yeah, and you make a good point on that one too, is that the time frame that we need you to share this information to look at those cameras is going to be January 12th at after 1:40 a.m. and run it until noon that day on January 12th. Hit up the local gas stations that you're at and ask them, hey, we're looking for this couple, anybody that happens to have a Ring camera as well. So anything that you can do to help the family out, identify that, and then send any of your tips to support at adventureswithpurpose.com. I think would be the fastest and easiest. We have people that are screening the emails that's going to get us that information immediately. We do have in the description down below some phone number for the detective that is actually controlling the case. However, we're working on this. We're checking emails throughout the entire day. We can't say the same as far as they've been great to work with as far as the local agency, but I'm just saying that we're here now and we're going to make sure that we check those leads that you're sending us, and send us a picture or any other information that you can give and any of your contact details, so that way we can double check it. And like I said, let's see what we can do to bring the Proctors home.
And anybody out there that may be driving and thinks that they do see their vehicle, please follow them until they stop and talk to them and find out if it's them. Don't just call the police department with a location and let them venture off in another direction to where that vehicle can't be found and checked out.
That's right. Yeah, track them down. Stay with them. That's a really good point. So, all right. Well, anyway, that's the update that I've got for you right now. And like I said, I mean, I hope that by putting this information out there, we have a good lay of the land now. I can pretty much tell you which direction, which road I'm at, and I can give anybody directions at this point in time for your community. So yeah, putting this information out there, and again, spread the awareness. If you're not in Nebraska, Colorado, Kansas, share the video, just even on your own Facebook page, and make a call. And if you happen to know of people in this area, make sure they see this and have them go out after work tonight and do everything they can. One thing that we have not done is right now, we have not focused on this north side at all. It's going to come in the next day or two as far as our focus. I know that yesterday, Victor, you and Lacey were over in this section some, clearing this area.
Yes.
But and we've covered a lot of these from 34 up and down, from Kearney, everything that crossed over the Platte River to Highway 80. We covered every one of those bridge crossings and paved roads, but we have not done anything at all up in this area right now. And so what if they made their way north, they made it over I-80, and they're up in this area somewhere? That's going to be part of our search later on in the next few days. But in the meantime, anybody that can help us out, get out there and help out. So
Yes, please.
Yes, please, everybody. Give us a helping hand. We need it.
Yep. All right. On that note, this is the family. This is who we're looking for. We're looking for Grandma and Grandpa. They've been missing since January 11th that evening, but really technically January 12th. And, we need to bring them home. We need to provide answers. Again, the vehicle that we're looking for is a Chrysler Pacifica, blue in color. Your Grandma and Grandpa, they've been married for 64, going on 65 years now. And, we need to help out.
Yes.
All right. On that note, we'll be in touch a little bit later today. Bills will reach out to you. I'm going to go ahead and end this broadcast now, and we will chat later, Lacey. See you later.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
So much.
Bye, Victor.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.